Hey everybody, welcome out to Gatemen Postgame Live. The usual suspects with you, Jacob Toby, Andre Sims, Matt Feld. We have a bit of an interesting setup tonight. Our camera memory card broke. We don't have any other method in extracting footage from our camera, and no one's here to hold the iPad tonight, so we're using a laptop that's propping it open, and we're here on the Stony Brook Field bleachers right next to where we broadcast, so this will be like really game-like action. Wareham wins it tonight by a final score of 4-3 in 10 innings. Really a fun game to watch, maybe a fluky win for Wareham, but they'll certainly tank their 7th win in a row and a trip to the playoffs for the 2nd year. Guys, let's go around and everyone give your brief impressions of the game. Andre, we'll start with you. You're talking about the 9th inning in which Wareham tied the game.
Yeah, it was interesting, and there were a couple of just defensive miscues from Brewster that really made me scratch my head, as I quite literally scratch my head. But like a couple of the dribbler from Cole Freeman, you can't really do much there. That's all right. But on the bunt from Joey Bartosik on the play that followed that, the pitcher was very slow getting off of the mound and ultimately didn't even offer a throw. And in a situation with 2 on and nobody out, you have to be able to at least get that first out when the person is literally giving themselves up on the base paths, and to not even get a throw off, set themselves up for ultimately the game's tying runs being scored. And then after that, on the miscue where the ball was dropped at first base on the attempted throw over, everyone on Brewster, the first baseman, the pitcher, the catcher, everyone was over there stopped. Just assumed that time would be called and everyone would just go back to their positions. And that wasn't the case, and Ezekiel Sanchez and Don Sneddon were very heads up on the play and ultimately sent Sanchez, and he scored the tying run. So a lot of mental flukes there from Brewster, and honestly it's a game that maybe Wareham shouldn't have necessarily come back in because of the fact that there were so many mental mistakes.
And don't forget about the wizard-like coaching decision by Jerry Weinstein to pinch run for Gavin Sheets at second and put Ezekiel Sanchez in the game. I don't think Gavin Sheets even attempts to score on the play that Sanchez did, and it ended up tying the game for Wareham and ultimately propelling them to a 10-inning win. Matt, we're going to go back to you. You're going to talk about everything leading up to that 9th inning. Wareham was stifled for the most part by Zachary Lowther.
Yeah, Lowther was terrific. He used a solid mix of his fastball that ranges between 90 and 92 miles an hour to go along with a sweeping breaking ball. Reminds you a lot of Wareham's own Gunnar Leger in the way he operates, not an overpowering lefty, but he's a crafty one. He really executes well, throws strike one, which obviously in this league is so big. And for the first 7 innings, you thought that Wareham was being perfect gamed with the way that they were taking some of their at-bats, 1, 2, 3 pitches and back to the dugout. They went, but it shows a lot about this team's resiliency. Lowther comes out of the game, and they immediately greet the Brewster bullpen in the top of the 9th inning with 3 consecutive base hits, as Andre talked about, before ultimately putting together the comeback rally. So that's a terrific sign, because we all know heading into the Cape League playoffs that no pitcher is going to throw or even attempt to throw a complete game. And if you can get into a bullpen earlier in the game, as I thought Wareham had some chances early when they put 2 runners on in the 1st and 3rd innings, you're going to be a pretty successful ball club going forward.
Jacob, we'll send it over to you now. You're touching on Jeff Bain and his outing tonight that looked like he was really going to implode after the 1st inning in which he allowed 3 runs.
Yeah, it really looked the same as his last start versus Hyannis, where he let up 4 runs in the 1st inning, and this one was going to be the same, except he found himself after he went 5 innings, struck out 5 as well, and you could see his off-speed stuff was coming as the game went on. His fastball wasn't there at first, the movement wasn't there, and his placement was off as well. We know Jeff Bain, first pitch strikes are really important for him, and it wasn't working as he let up 3 runs in the top of the 1st, or in the bottom of the 1st, like you said, Jake. So a nice win here. Jerry Weinstein was really upset with him last time out versus Hyannis, and this time was proud of him after my pregame interview, which will be posted later. And he said he fought back from his 1st inning troubles and looked fairly good after that.
And let's not also sleep on the relief performances by a few guys tonight. Jake Mathis coming in, closing the door like he has so many times this season. Clayton Gelfand retiring the 1 batter he faced on 3 straight pitches. And then Dalton Horton going a little bit of extended relief too. He looked very sharp tonight. So the Gatemen bullpen continuing to do great things. Hot takes now, and we'll get out of here. We'll start with you, Jacob.
This team loves to play extra innings, and this team also loves to make it hard for themselves to win games in those extra innings. Just their first win in extra innings this season. Also, you give the run, or rather, you just go into extra innings. It's not what you want, obviously, here on the Cape. You're lucky that the sun held up, and you got to finish this game off without Chatham, or rather, Brewster. Who will be playing? I don't even know. Brewster, luckily, didn't get the win after the tie rather, after the sun would go down. So again, it's just they make it tough for themselves time in and time out again.
I think this was one of the best coached games of the season. All of the decisions in this one ultimately panned out. You talk about playing the matchups with Horton and then Gelfand and then Mathis on the mound. Pinch running for Gavin Sheets, like you mentioned, Jake. Also switching for Marolio in the 6th inning for Joey Bart. After that, the pinch hitting for Destino, for Tovalin with Destino, and all the decisions that were made in this game from Jerry Weinstein and Jim Lawler and company worked out in this one. And so all the decisions and like the gutsy calls to send runners, to hold runners, Joey Bartosik being held at third base to load the bases, smart decision there. So from a coaching perspective, I think this is one of the most well-rounded coaching games of the season.
Matt?
I'm just going to piggyback off of that and add one other note. I thought the pinch hitting decision to pitch to Alex Destino for Adrian Tovalin might get a little overlooked because Destino only grounded out in the 9th inning, but Destino laid off 2 curveballs that I just don't know if Tovalin lays off of. We've seen Tovalin, for all of his success with the fastball, have some severe trouble with the breaking ball, and he probably swings over the top of 1 or 2 of those pitches. Destino disciplined enough to lay off of them. And the second thing is, I heard Jerry Weinstein talking to his team after the game, and all he said was, "You guys have one thing left to do, and that's go win a Cape Cod Baseball League championship." So, and his main line was, no matter what level of baseball you play, no matter what level of sports you play, your end goal is to win, and your end goal is always to win. And he said he was very impressed with how this team has gotten better while also winning. They've not had to sacrifice winning for just focusing on getting better. And so that was an interesting message, I thought, that he spread to the rest of his team.
Yeah, Wareham's now won 7 games in a row, and I guess my final point / hot take is a really positive one. They clinched a playoff spot for the 2nd year in a row as well in Jerry Weinstein's first year of the season. I know a lot of Wareham fans are geared towards one mindset and one mindset only, and that's making the playoffs. Well, as Matt said, Jerry Weinstein hasn't sacrificed player development for winning games, and yet his team is still winning games. So I feel like the overarching message here is that maybe all coaches should approach things like this. He's a player's coach, that's for sure, because he cares so much about how these guys develop. It's not so much in the now, it's in the future. And as we've seen this season, it translates into present success. And I love the philosophy of Jerry Weinstein and how he approaches coaching here on the Cape, and I think it's one that a lot of managers should try and emulate if they don't already do so. So that'll round things out here at Gatemen Postgame Live. Wareham wins it 4-3 tonight in 10 innings. We're running out of daylight here at Stony Brook Field, so we're going to sign off. From all of us to all of you, thanks for watching and have a good evening.